Mhm. Okay, greetings to all from English Without Borders. We are so excited to see all of you joining our Thursday series of English Without Borders webinar. And today we are so excited uh, because we are hosting Dr. Amoneeta Beck. And today he will be talking about teaching kids mindfulness. We have been looking for this webinar quite long, and also just we received so many acclaims about our speaker and also about the publications he has. And so we welcome Dr. Amoneeta to this webinar, and we hope that we will have a lasting collaboration with English Without Borders together to make, more contribution into teachers' capacity development in Tajikistan. And welcome, Dr. Amoneeta. Welcome virtually to Tajikistan. And to be honest, like our webinar is going live, and also teachers not only from Tajikistan but also from other countries, they are joining, and also the recording will be available on Facebook. And those who missed today's webinar, they can watch it later and also just learn about this webinar. And I would like just to share some information about our speaker today. So mindfulness can not only contribute to children's lifelong happiness and inner peace, but also to being more effective and productive students and society members. And our speaker, he had research and activities from his latest books available, like Teaching Mindfulness, a guidebook for teachers, parents, counselors, and caregivers. And the COVID-19 pandemic, a multidisciplinary approach to managing mental health challenges, which was published in 2021. And Dr. Amoneeta will teach now how to maximize our kids' learning potential by teaching them mindfulness. And Dr. Amoneeta is psychology assistant professor at Fort Lewis College, USA, and he is an indigenous, multicultural, positive psychologist, a slam poet, and author, and an ethical influencer. Dr. Amoneeta is a proponent of leveraging psychology and mindfulness to enhance educational outcomes that contribute to meaningful learning, positive mental health, and society growth, resilience, and life enhancement. And on this positive note, let me give the floor to our speaker, Dr. Amoneeta. Over to you, Dr. Amoneeta. And dear audience, if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the chat box and comment box on Facebook and chat box on Zoom to address your questions to our speaker. Thank you so much, dear all, and the floor is yours, Dr. Amoneeta. Thank you.
Waduh, thank you, Nasiba. An Agidoda, Ani Yaweya, Agidoda, Ani Gilohi, Dakwado Amanita, Imashali, Yael Beck, Yisraeli. Good evening, everyone there in Tajikistan. I know this is an English group, but I did introduce myself in my parents' languages. My name is Amoneeta. My father is John Beck. He is from the Aniyawiya tribe, long hair clan, and my mother is a Jewish Israeli, Yael Beck. Thank you again for inviting me here. I'm very excited to virtually fly there into Tajikistan. I had some very good friends in university at Arizona State University from Tajikistan, and would love to actually come and visit in person there. So yeah, Nasiba, thank you again for that very warm welcome and nice comments there. So as was shared, I will be talking with you all on teaching mindfulness to children. So once again, really appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in and joining today. I'll be sharing mostly from my book and my co-author's work, Jana York, and kind of sharing some of the things and research that we've done And much like was already mentioned, there are so many benefits of using mindfulness to teach children. And then from your perspectives, you could teach this to anybody, any age. And in fact, the exercises are designed so that the teachers themselves can gain the benefits, because through some mindfulness with any age, students, you can really improve so many aspects, and that makes your job easier. Students are going to be able to pay more attention. They're going to be more present. They're going to be able to be more engaged with you as a professor or a teacher. So, things like being able to have proper posture and proper breathing. We know that breath is so much part of life and can really help us all. How to be mindful of what's around you, being engaged in your senses, kind of connecting your mind to your body, understanding your emotions, but also being able to regulate your emotions. Some of the psychology research says that the best predictor of success for students is being able to understand and regulate their emotions, practice gratitude, and much more. So again, this all comes out of my book that I wrote together with Jana York. On the left here, the Teaching Mindfulness, a guidebook for teachers, parents, counselors, and caregivers. And then Jana herself, she wrote a children's book, a picture book, a story book that goes along with the more teacher's guidebook for the children to read. And it walks you through Claire's journey of mindfulness, of learning mindfulness from her teacher. And she's kind of an ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive child. And she's learning how to use these mindfulness techniques that her teacher teaches her, some of the very same things like that we're learning today. So that's kind of where the journey we're going to go on today. That you all already kind of know me. You were introduced there, a very positive psychologist, multicultural psychologist. You don't know my co-author. Unfortunately, she can't join us today, but let me introduce you to her. She's been a children's mindfulness educator and practitioner for over 10 years. She's an author. I've introduced her book to you and done research and written a lot on mindfulness. And her passion is really helping children reduce anxiety and, like I said, self-regulate, manage those emotions as they come up. And she's taught mindfulness in Japan, Thailand, and the US. And she and I actually met while the two of us were living abroad in Thailand. And we met as part of a volunteer organization that we did that was all about picking up trash on the beach. And so, yeah, really good experience, and really good, a good person there Jana is. So wonderful. So you might ask, kind of, what is mindfulness? For those of you that may not even have this kind of concept, it is just paying attention on purpose in the present moment with some curiosity and kindness. And once again, so many benefits: managing, regulating emotions, improving focus, being more relaxed and calm, feeling more creative and confident, improve social skills, awareness, memory, mood, and other indices such as reduced stress and anxiety. So the studies that myself, Jana, and so many other scholars out there that have done studies on this basically show that it improves pretty much everything for students. They get better grades, they have better relationships, they get along better with their teachers, they just have all these better indices of kind of concrete aspects of success, let alone some of the kind of the spiritual and personal things that are maybe a little harder to measure. So again, really a good thing to do. And then, of course, once again, as a teacher, you all benefit from that. So I know a lot of words here. Here is just a kind of a taste to mindfulness, right? We use mnemonics, which is, we call them the vowels of mindfulness, the A-E-I-O-U. I think as English teachers, you all probably can appreciate that. And each vowel stands for a different aspect of mindfulness. And I'll share some of those with you all today so that you can learn a little bit about this mnemonic, the A-E-I-O-U, and then why also, because we can't do mindfulness without you. And so, help you all with the self-regulation, with growth mindset, and also build resilience and self-confidence in a very fun and interactive way. Ideally, I would want these exercises to utilize the ones from my book as a lesson plan to be done in like 8 weeks, maybe about 5 to 15 minutes per day, over the course of 8 weeks would be wonderful to be done in class. And it could be as little as just 5 minutes at the beginning of each class. And, I teach college classes, and sometimes I'll do this. I'll do a mindfulness exercise with my students. And I notice that makes a difference in a 50-minute class. More of my students will, get less of that glassy look in their eyes that they're daydreaming. They'll check their cell phones less. They'll be looking out the window less in the times that I do, even just, a couple of minutes at the beginning. And so I really, truly believe that mindfulness can be prevention, really, really help young people cope with emotional issues in our fast-paced society here. And I think that it will really drastically change the world. If we can teach more people mindfulness, it can really, really, really change and transform our world and reduce many of the ailments, many of the problems like addictions, mental health, and other problems that we see. And then once again, you as parents and adults and teachers, we can also all benefit by using a little mindfulness in our lives. When the teacher asks, are you present? Are you here? The question is, are you really there? Are you really present and in the mood? And even less so now. Some of you are old enough to live in a time when we didn't have all the distractions of the internet and the cell phones in our hands and pockets like that, distracting us. Zoom, right? We have no idea if students are present or if they're movie background and just kind of have the Zoom on or something else. Yeah. Etc. Students focus on filling mind, right? Some basic.
Dr. Amoneeta, yeah, we don't hear you. Yeah. Okay. Hope you're back.
I apologize if that was on my end. Kind of lost the connection there. Can you all see and hear me again? Or hopefully you all. Great. So yeah, again, we often don't have this focus on the mental health of things. They enroll in a college psychology class, or they go to a counselor, a therapist, or something. So we want to once again really help students with these skills, and they can be lifelong skills that can really help them. So I promised you all the vowels of mindfulness, right? So this is my first vowel here. which is A for attention. And so we can't do anything unless we're present again, unless we're paying attention. Focus or concentrate on what's happening now, what's happening around us, right? While it's important to pay attention to many things, you can also use mindfulness with a spirit of curiosity and sense of wonderment, and really just be curious about yourself and what's happening, etc. And so some of the things like activities that we can do is mindful bodies, anchor words, calm, relaxed breathing, focusing on your breath. These are some of the activities that if we had more time, we could actually do all of these, right? Once again, I kind of pointed this out before. We're so easily distracted. Many of my students, I have them do this where they monitor how much they use the phone. And, you know, many phones do this now, or you can download an app to track that information. And on average, my college students pick up their phone over 500 times a day. So it's even gone up compared to some of the stats I cite here. 500 times a day that they actually open the phone, and 5 or plus hours per day is what they usually report to me as college students. So that's a significant number of times, right? And that can really distract folks. Yeah, people often forget so much. Right? People sometimes forget their own birthdays, or forget the major details about their friends and relatives. They say that the average time attention span is kind of decreased over the course of time, over the course of years, just kind of decreasing from maybe 12 seconds in 2000 down to some research showing as little as 8 seconds more recently. So that's kind of an interesting phenomenon that's going on there. So there are some very easy mindfulness activities. Again, A is for attention. So these are some activities that can kind of help get our attention. One is the mindful posture, just really being present and acknowledging and doing a body scan and knowing what the posture is. The other one would be flashlight. Just kind of using a flashlight in a room. You might dim the lights and take the flashlight and just kind of go around the room and point out. So those that are learning English, for example, you could use this in combination with the vocabulary that you might be learning, right? Light bulb, door, different vocabulary, and use the flashlight to have people narrow their focus. Sometimes we use a bell to get people's attention, so that brings in that sound to kind of redirect the student's attention to the teacher or to an activity. And last might be telescope eyes. So I often just might use like the little rolls that you can get from toilet paper, for example. And sometimes I'll have the students decorate those rolls and then put them to their eyes, or you can even use your hands, but just to narrow the focus some. And you can do the same. Have students point out different objects in the room. Point out, okay, let's all look at the teacher. Let's all look at the door. Let's all look at this, and kind of have them narrow their focus so it's not all over. It's this idea of kind of putting on some blinders there. So yeah, this is the more specific instructions on the flashlight activity, showing how we can move our attention from one thing to another. You can use the flashlight to represent a focal point and give an idea of what attention looks like. So you'll need a flashlight. You'll need to kind of close the curtains, dim the lights. You shine the flashlight around the room, pausing the light on different objects around the room. You might even, after a little while, you might have a student be the one in charge of shining the light on different objects. And then you can explain that moving a flashlight around demonstrates how attention jumps from one thing to another. And shine the light on one object for a longer time. And then that shows how attention can be still and focused on an object. So this is one of those fun kind of to both build vocabulary and build focus and do mindfulness. Again, it could be a real quick 5-minute thing that you do before class. The mindful breathing would be another exercise. You all can actually do this in class if you want. Oftentimes I will maybe teach when people are sitting, teach the idea of mindful breathing, of putting one hand on your chest and one on your stomach and trying to just get that stomach to move, that lower hand to move like that. So that's how I might teach adults. But with children, it's a little bit harder to get them to focus like that. And so what I'll often do is have them lay down on the floor, and usually in with smaller kids, you'll have the stuffed animals, little toys, and just have them put those on their stomach as a toy, as their friend. Often, if they don't have a name, I'll have them name the child, the little toy, and then have them practice breathing nice and slow and say, be careful. You don't want your friend to fall off your stomach. And just see how that feels for them, how it kind of goes up and down like that. So that's another one of those fun activities for kids called mindful breathing. And then again, you can also just teach it by putting one hand on a chest and one on the stomach and practicing that. So let's all do that. Just try to practice getting your breath out of your chest, which indicates that stress response, indicates that fight, flight, or freeze response, and get your breathing down to your stomach. Let's all do that. 5 deep, long breaths. Good, thanks. I hope you all followed along with that, and that might bring you a little more into the present moment to be here now. All right, so you all probably all know, as being English teachers there, that the next vowel is E. E for experience. Really experiencing the present moment. Taking time to walk slowly in nature. Look closely at the leaves that have fallen from the trees. Listen to the birds and the sounds around you. Touch the ground. Notice if it is hot or cold. Basically, be present. So we don't have the time in the moment to go out into nature, but just look around where you are. Hear the sound. Listen to the sound of my voice. Look at the colors on the screen that you're seeing. Lots of colors there that you can see. You might even start to wander around your own room. Right, I have a very nice painting here. I can look at the walls, the textures. I can feel the walls. I can feel the different things. I can feel the chair against me. I can smell. Right, it's morning over here, so I have a nice strong decaf coffee here that I can smell. So just kind of getting into your senses and really experiencing them. That's one of the ways to be present. A lot of kids, at least over here in the United States, are familiar with Kung Fu Panda. He said, yesterday is history, tomorrow is mystery, and today is a gift. That's why we call the moment, today, the present. So that's E for experience. And so, there are many activities that we can do. In my book, you have all of these laid out in a lot of detail, so I can't do them all or even explain them all in the short 30 minutes that we have. But you can just have students think about or write down, and maybe they asked if an activity, if any of you want to do this. You could even do this in the moment. You could think about, or you could write out. Or if you had more time in a class, you can ask them to share. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you touch? What do you taste? So again, another way of kind of practicing English at the same time as practicing mindfulness. All right. Do we have any questions or comments or anything so far?
No, clear for me.
Great. All right, very good. So our next one was going to be I for investigate. So let's be curious. Let's start to investigate what's going on in our lives, in our world. And that can be very fun and interesting, right? It's one of the issues that we have is that we're not curious enough, right? So investigate. What are the physical sensations maybe that you're feeling? Is your heart racing? Are you relaxed? Are you too relaxed to study and learn? So that's one of the things that sometimes happens is we need kind of the right level of the right level of arousal, falling asleep and your mind will be going. Don't want to be too anxious, too ramped up either, because you'll be too focused on that anxiety. So yeah, what does the physical aspect feel like in these kinds of things? All right, so that is kind of and so some of the ways to explore the physical sensations in the body are through some physical activities. And so lots of children are not comfortable to do things like yoga and that. So in my lesson plans, I have some really fun kind of exercises where I can teach the kids how to be like a flamingo, stand on one foot, or like a sumo wrestler, pretend like they're a sumo wrestler, or a downhill skier, or a rag doll, just be real flexible like that. So some of these balance, squeeze and relax body scan types of exercises can be adapted to work with children. And then once again, adults enjoy these kinds of things also. All right. So our next vowel that you all probably already know is O, right? A-E-I-O-U. And this is to really observe. Observe your thoughts. Notice which ones you can keep and which ones you can kind of throw away. I often teach them how to observe their thoughts and feelings like clouds in the sky. And some of those clouds you can just let float by. You can let them float away and dissipate. Some of those ones that you don't want to stick around in your mind. Oftentimes it's the very strong negative thoughts that want to stick. And so we want to think about, okay, we can let some of those go. Let them go like Teflon. Let them just slide away. And some of the ones you want to keep them like Velcro. Let them stick to your mind like that. And just kind of observe those without judgments, so that you don't feel so bad when you feel the bad thought feelings, etc. All right, so that is kind of O for observe, right? Anytime you have some kind of stimulus, like a thought, then there's usually a response that often comes pretty quickly. But the thing is that we can have a space between the stimulus, let's say a thought or some activity, something that happened in life. You could think about yourselves if you drive, for example. If there's a lot of traffic, if somebody cuts you off, there's often time, even a split second, for some kind of response. And that's where you have the power to choose your response. You don't have to react angrily or out of impatience or something. If you can take a moment to pause in that moment there. And so mindfulness and the practice of mindfulness helps us create that space between a very strong emotion and an action or a reaction. And so that's what we would like to try to do, to teach children so that they don't have to react, let's say, out of anger or sadness, but rather take that moment in between when the event happens and the actual response. So yeah, great. Different activities again for teaching kids how to kind of have that moment to kind of stop, take a breath, observe the thought, and then proceed. That would be a kind of a stop exercise. And then I have some others that for the sake of time, I won't fully get into some of these other exercises that are associated with being able to really observe the thoughts and the feelings there. All right. We often say in psychology, what you resist persists. Right? What we try to bury down often comes back up again. And so that's why it becomes important to observe those thoughts, observe those feelings and different emotions, and then allow yourself to feel them. A lot of people have this concept that there are negative and positive emotions and that there are good feelings and bad feelings. They start to label those. And mindfulness actually says, let's not label those feelings as good or bad, because they're actually all good. Because even if they're uncomfortable, and that's kind of some of the phrasing I use is, well, that's probably an uncomfortable emotion or a comfortable emotion. But even very uncomfortable emotions like sadness, anger, etc., are actually helpful. They are good. They can teach us about what's happening in the world. The same as our physical sensation, right? You think that touching fire is bad, it's painful. But that tells us something important about the world. It says, well, fire is painful, fire is dangerous. Let's be cautious of that. So the same, if I have a very, very sad feeling about somebody that said something hurtful to me, that tells me something about the world. Let's look at that and say, well, maybe that tells me that this is a person that maybe I need to avoid, or maybe I need to have a better conversation with so we can have a better relationship. So again, even those uncomfortable emotions can be quite helpful. All right, if you all would like, let's take a bit of another pause here and learn what we call the finger breathing. And so you all can walk along with me if you're willing to. And I would suggest that you hold up your non-dominant hand, whichever hand that you usually don't write with, for example, to start. And then you can switch later on to your more dominant hand, and take your other hand and take a finger and just start tracing that hand slowly like this. That's the first step. And this can be real fun, and it may take a little while with younger kids to kind of learn this technique. And then once you've got that a little bit, real slow and concentrated, and then at your own pace, try to start to do it with breath. So going in reverse, breathing in as you go up and out as you go down. Again, breathing in, and do this kind of at your own breath and pace, and see if you can slow it down, breathing in and out as you go up and down. And so this can be a really, really good exercise for people to focus. You have the sensation there, you have the sight because you're looking at your finger, right? Your fingers in your hand there, and just breathing. Again, so just kind of practice that, and hopefully that kind of helps you all even focus more on today's lecture if you followed along and did that finger breathing exercise. And you know, again, something you can be that can be done anytime. Take a mindfulness break. It could be 30 seconds. And sometimes I even notice with my students, they'll do this on their own after we practice it a few times in class. All right. Our last vowel, as you all know, is U. So U for understanding. Let's be understanding of ourselves, understanding of others, really being kind to ourselves, having that self-compassion, understanding of others, really showing gratitude. This is a positive psychology thing, and that's another part of my identity here is as a positive psychologist. And that is to be very grateful. And that gratefulness can really boost our happiness, really boost our values and these kinds of things, right? And so this is another way of really understanding yourself and others. Any questions or comments on anything that we've covered so far? All right, great. We'll move forward here then. The last one, not really a vowel, as you all know, but we add this why is for you, because we really can't practice mindfulness without you being in there. Paying attention in the present makes your experience fun, likely going to help you with your studies, and just kind of focusing on the you, right? We can do that by really noticing a feeling in the mind and the body, maybe playing with a pet, walking in nature, as I said, brushing your teeth. That's some way that you have nothing else going on at that time. So why not just focus on, they recommend that you brush your teeth for 2 or 3 minutes. That's one way to put mindfulness into your day in those few minutes of just being mindful, right? Share a smile or an act of kindness. And again, mindfulness can make you calmer, happier, more alert. All right. So lastly, I would just touch on, given that the importance of teaching is some 7 standards for mindful teaching. So to be a good teacher, we want to and need to kind of follow some ethical guidelines. And so these are some aspects of the mindfulness ethics. And that is really avoiding harm in your teaching, right? So you don't want to be cause any traumas and drama there. Make sure you describe any qualifications and experience honestly and plainly. You don't want to misrepresent your qualifications and experiences, and don't work outside of your qualifications alone. It's best to have a guidance, somebody to be able to help you so that you can learn, kind of supervisory, right? View a lack of experience as an opportunity, that growth mindset. You can partner with someone that has a little more experience from you, or you can go to the literature. You could use my book if you wanted. Maintaining your own practice, right? We know that the mindfulness teachers that do a little bit this mindfulness on their own, they tend to do better in terms of what they can do for their students. And then be competent in trauma-informed teaching, understanding that trauma can affect our students very, very a lot. And then if possible, try to have different school counselor or social worker or psychologist on hand to refer your students to, or even to be in your mindfulness classes, because they can really contribute and help that for some of the things that might come up. For the sake of time, I won't show you all this video, but I can share the link with you all to watch on your own there. This video can be quite encouraging. It's a 3 or 4 minutes about some kids sharing how mindfulness kind of transformed their lives. And so I'll share that in the chat. You all can go ahead and share it more online also. If anybody wants to watch that on their own time, please don't watch it here during the presentation, because then you would not be as present here, which is what we would like to encourage. Okay. All right. So that's my presentation there. I really appreciate all of you, although I can't necessarily see you, but I appreciate you being present, paying attention, spending these 30 minutes or more with me here. And once again, I hate to do this, but my publisher really wants me to promote our books. So if you have any interest, I would encourage you all to check out these books. The link should be out there, or just searching Amoneeta and Mindfulness, you can find online. And my co-author has that children's book that accompanies our teacher's manual that you can also find. They're available, as digital products. My book, for example, is on Google Books. About probably 40% of it is free on there. So feel free to even just use the free part and use some of that to start off. And if you like what you learned here and you like the book, I would encourage you, if you could help me by writing a little review on Amazon or Google Books or any of the platforms out there where the books are. So that would really help us a lot by sharing your opinion about this presentation and and that. All right. Do we have any enough of that shameless promotion? And let's see if there are any kind of questions or comments or anything to discuss.
Hello, doctor. I have a question.
Absolutely.
Yes. I missed some part of your presentation, but I heard that I really like about the physical sensation activity like flamingos. I think it will work on my kids. That's why I like to know more about that. So where can I find that? Can you give me some book or recommendation for that?
Well, sure. I'm glad that you asked. I mean, I would you know, you can find these things online and other things like that, but I would kind of shamelessly promote my own book here, this Teaching Mindfulness. It has 40 exercises in there, and quite a few of them are focused on the physical, like have the direct instructions on how to do the different poses and different activities. And you all might have heard about things like learning styles. So we have some students that are physical learners and the ones that really benefit from some of these movement exercise, body exercise. And so, yeah, I posted a link there if you want. Again, about 40% of that is entirely free for people to just find online. But you can also order the physical copies or the whole copy electronic if you decided you wanted to. So yeah, thanks for that question.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amoneeta. Now, so Diol, please leave your questions or unmute yourself to ask questions to our other speaker today.
I like this comment that Abdul Kolik wrote, said, I learned that mindfulness can lower blood pressure and improve sleep. It may even help people cope with pain. Mindfulness is really important for teachers and students. So that's a wonderful comment there. And I believe all true. It really can help with physical things like pain and chronic illness. And absolutely, it can help with sleep. And I don't know about you all, but probably you're very much like we are in America, because we're importing this kind of American culture of you have to be productive and you have to do many things. And we have a major epidemic in our country and probably across the world of people not sleeping enough. And that's another passion of mine is helping people sleep better. And in fact, I teach a psychology of sleep class, and absolutely sleep can make big differences, and mindfulness can also.
Okay, we have a question. Api Munawar is raising her hand. Api Munawar, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Please go ahead.
I have no question, but I want to thank our dear presenter, because it is to know the mindfulness. It's not only for students, but it's also for teachers, because sometimes teacher cannot control their emotion. And I think that these exercises will help them to control themselves during the lessons. Of course, our emotion, our spirit influences on our students and our teaching tips, because so many students are looking for us. That's why it's very useful for us too. Because thank you, dear presenter doctor, and I hope the presenters, the listeners, will have got some very useful tips from your presentation. Thank you.
Absolutely appreciate that comment, and you're absolutely right. If we can't regulate our emotions as teachers, that can translate into how our students feel and react, and they can feel that and they can see that, and obviously that'll make it that much harder for us to teach effectively. So wonderful comment there.
Uh, Thank you, Dr. Amoneeta. I have a quick question. So you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation that mindfulness can also help, for growth mindset. And in terms of like, can you bring any examples that you used any activities or exercises to help your students to grow their mindset?
Yeah. Thanks so much for that. Right. And so much of our education has been limited because it doesn't have this idea of a growth mindset, which a growth mindset is that if we make mistakes, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes, and that in fact, it's often good to make mistakes. We don't want to entirely get 100% on a test. Wait, that's great, but what we might not learn from those mistakes. So another psychologist and educator, Carol Dweck, came up with this idea that I'm aware of growth mindset. And so I do believe that mindfulness can help with that growth mindset. Simple things like what we were talking about earlier, paying attention to how you feel when you get something wrong. And sometimes that will stimulate your emotions, stimulate your immune systems, nervous system some, and make you kind of worried and those kinds of things. But we can utilize that little bit of anxiety to get into a growth mindset. Well, okay, well, what does that mean that I got this question wrong? It means that it's an opportunity to figure out, where did I go wrong? How can I do it better next time? So that we know that students that don't have a growth mindset tend to be quite upset about missing something. And so if we can start to teach them this idea of shifting, well, actually, that's a good thing that you missed it, because you're probably not going to miss it again next time if we look at the aspects there. So yeah, really wonderful question. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Amoneeta. And the boy is asking, is mindfulness the key to happiness?
Yeah, what a great question. So another area that I'm very passionate about is happiness. I consider myself a positive psychologist, and one of the big roles of positive psychologists is to study happiness. And I think that the simple answer is no, because there probably isn't one key to happiness. I don't think there's anything we can do. And in fact, my master's thesis that I studied was about the balance between salient life domains and happiness, and how we need to first spend time in the life domains that are important to us, and that can boost and balance those. And so, right, spending 12 hours a day working, like a lot of us teachers do, is not a balance. Sure, we may love our work, we may love our students, but that's not really a balance. So I think the simple answer is no. The more complex answer is it can be one of the contributions to happiness. I think so. And there's a section in my book that looks at the kind of crossover of mindfulness and positive psychology, and how they can contribute to happiness by being grateful, by being present. And so I do think that the practice of mindfulness can be one piece to the puzzle, one of the keys, but maybe we need a giant key chain with many keys on it. And so it can certainly contribute. And last thing to say on that, and this is another thing that I mentioned in my book, is that mindfulness and positive psychology will absolutely transform the world if we use this to teach, because it can improve every sector of society if we implement this, especially to young kids, but everyone at all ages. We can always teach old dogs new tricks, so to speak, in that idiom, so that it can really help everyone be more present, be happier, and be more engaged members of society, be much less likely to have mental health issues and drop out of school or drop out of work, not show up to work, become criminals, get involved in addictions. All of these things that we see as kind of labeled as problems can be decreased through positive psychology and mindfulness. And yeah, again, I think it can be one of the many keys to contribute to that elusive happiness that we all want. So thanks for that question, Gulnara.
Okay, thank you so much. And to some extent, some of the teachers usually they have kind of low self-esteem. They lack confidence. They don't know how to boost their confidence and how to boost their motivation. What would you recommend?
Yeah, good question. I think not another easy answer there, but both motivation and self-esteem have both been shown to increase when people practice mindfulness. So the short answer would be practice mindfulness in kind of any way and form, and using some of these exercises that we talked about today, finding others. Can be a way to kind of boost people's self-esteem and motivation. And so and one of the keys, I guess, to the benefits of mindfulness is consistency, right? Even as little as 5 minutes a day can make a difference, but it doesn't have to be, I need to become a monk and meditate for hours at a time, or even an hour a day. But just a little bit per day, and then actually bringing it in and utilizing it. So when you notice, I don't have confidence in this moment, I'm not motivated in the moment, let's be observant of that. Well, what does that mean to us? The same as I gave that example. What does it mean if I touch a hot stove, a fire? What does that tell me about what's going on? Well, what does it tell me that I'm feeling like I'm not competent to be a teacher? What does it tell me that I don't feel like I'm motivated to grade this 100 papers in this moment? Well, maybe that means that you're a bit burnt out and that you need a bit of a break and come back to it. So let's be curious about what that means, and then you can make more conscious choices on how you behave after that. So yeah, another great question.
Thank you so much. Nowadays, like lots of people talk about meditation. So meditation and mindfulness, how they can help reduce anxiety, and also just boost self-confidence, and also just bring much more peace to the mind. What would you recommend to those who are having very unrestful mind? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So absolutely, I agree. The more intensive practice of meditation can also benefit in these aspects. But mindfulness is not that kind of sitting still and meditating for hours at a time. It can be things that can just happen in a few moments. And so little things like taking a pause. There's one thing that we talk about, which is the little green dots aspect. And that is taking some stickers. We use little green stickers, just little round stickers, but it could be any stickers. Just anything to kind of remind you to take a moment, to take a pause. And so I'll put them on my water bottle, on the back of my cell phone, on the steering wheel of my car, little places that you'll notice. And when you see that little green sticker, or you could pick any color if you don't have green stickers available, to just take a moment of pause. An earlier question that I think relates to this question is, what is a favorite mindfulness practice that I practice? And as a professor, and even setting up this mindfulness talk, for example, I probably corresponded with Zebo 10 or 12 emails. And so something, we're always on our email and on our computers. And something that I discovered that is built into my email is there's an option to put it where it takes 30 seconds to send the email. And so I think that's built in just in case you forgot something or you regret sending it, and you could pause that. But what I like to use that time for is to look out my window. And in my office out here in Colorado, I have a beautiful view of the mountains. And so I'll take those 30 seconds to just mindfully let my eyes readjust to further out, which is very good for my eyes, of course, but also good for my mind. And you think that 30 seconds is not it's not a long time at all, but when you're anxious to get on to the next task, we usually just send an email and go on to the next one. And so having those 30 seconds kind of built in, it's surprising that it really helps me be grounded and in that moment. And I feel like that's something anybody can do, is just having a little reminders to take a few breaths, get your mind off of what you're doing, and take a pause throughout your day. And it can help all the things that you were asking about.
That's amazing. And since you mentioned that you are indigenous, do you have any specific piece of music that helps you to grow your mindfulness?
Yeah, nice question also. So that's something that I've been more interested in recently, is some of the indigenous mindfulness practices, which I believe were existent in our Native American tribes before, of kind of being present and oftentimes this respect for nature and connection to nature, and just kind of very focused on the spiritual aspects and the interconnectedness of us within the natural world. And so, sure, sometimes maybe chanting one of the songs in my language, which I'm trying to learn more of my father's indigenous language. That can be a nice way of kind of just focusing on the words and the sounds and the spiritual aspects. So yeah, nice, and thanks for that question.
Okay, thank you so much. And we have a question from Fernanda. What correlation is there between mindfulness and self-care?
Oh, really good question. I don't know that there is a specific study I can't cite. Probably there is, right? People study these different things, but I haven't done the research or read the research about a correlation between self-care and mindfulness. But I can imagine that it would be a positive correlation, because as people are more mindful, they tend to have more self-compassion. And that is a study I'm familiar with, right? That as people practice mindfulness, they have more self-compassion. And when people have more self-compassion, they probably care about themselves more. They have better self-esteem. So with better self-esteem, better self-efficacy, they said, well, let me care for myself more. So I can imagine that there is a positive correlation, but I don't want to talk about science that I'm not directly familiar with. But yeah, I think that's probably a likely relationship. If the study hasn't been done, maybe some of you all, if you have that particular interest in mindfulness and self-care, you could do that study, and I imagine the hypothesis would come true there. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I guess we have the last question. Zibinso is asking, what's your favorite mindfulness practice that you do?
Yeah, so I kind of answered that earlier with your other question, because I had read that, and that's the one that I was describing about with the email of just taking those
Okay.
30 seconds. It has done so much for me through my workday because it's something that I can easily integrate. It doesn't take much time, but it gives me that pause. And sometimes I don't want to do that. I don't want to take the 30 seconds, even though it's only a half a minute. But I get impatient. I want to read the next email, or I want to do my next task. But it's really kind of forced me to slow down a little bit, and so I appreciate that. And then, yeah, I mentioned the little green dots one. That's something that I kind of do every day. Also, when I see that little green dot on the back of my cell phone, I sometimes just take a little pause. It can even happen while I'm walking, but just, okay, where am I? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Just take a couple of breaths, and it just kind of gets me more present in that moment. So thanks for those questions, and for everybody's questions and participation and being present here. It's been a real pleasure, real honor to be able to mindfully zoom into y'all's world there for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Amoneeta. We all enjoyed this session because we were trying to be present, at this moment, and at least we practiced doing some of the tips that you shared to stay mindful, to stay mindful, and also just to practice this. And I hope that everybody who participated in this webinar, they got with themselves some takeaways from this webinar. And of course, we would be very delighted to host you again, Dr. Amoneeta. And if you have just, more practices to share, or more just, more specific exercises that you do with your students, that would be very, very helpful for teachers as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I say, Nasiba? Dr.
Yes,
Amoneeta,
please go ahead.
thank you very much, Amoneeta, for this wonderful webinar. I am Zeboa I was Fulbright in Arizona State University, remember? I enjoyed your session very much. Thank you so much for teaching us how to practice mindfulness and what is mindfulness and how to be mindful. Thank you for sharing your favorite mindful activity practice. Thank you so much, Amoneeta. I appreciate you find time for us, for Tajik teachers, to share your experience, your book, your activities. I use some of your activities from your book in my professional development. Thank you, Amoneeta.
That's wonderful. Let me say, go Sun Devils. It's so nice to have
yes,
the connection
Sun
with you
Devils,
after so many years of being students at Arizona State University. We had really good times there. I'm glad to connect with you again, and for you to make this webinar possible. It's a real honor to do these connections across the world like this. And if any of y'all want to stay in touch, I put it there in the chat. Dr.Amoneeta, Amoneeta, on Instagram, or Amoneeta.com currently is linked directly to my LinkedIn profile. So feel free to follow me and stay in touch. And happy to do more of these webinars like this. If anybody wants training on mindfulness in other contexts, feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much. And of course, we will share the links that you put in the chat box, Dr. Amoneeta, with our participants, and also through our Telegram channel. Those who missed it, they will be able to watch it later. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Amoneeta, and we really wish you to visit someday Tajikistan to deliver in-person workshops and trainings for teachers.
Yes, please. Yes, please. You're welcome to Tajikistan, Amoneeta.
That would be
Dr.
wonderful.
Amoneeta, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. I prefer just Amoneeta, actually. So thanks.
I didn't get used to it yet. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And again, like on behalf of the whole English Without Borders network and webinar participants, we extend our gratitude to you, Dr. Amoneeta. And thank you, dear audience, for staying active and asking questions to our speaker today. And so wishing everyone to have a good day for you, Mr. Amoneeta, and also good evening to all those who are in Tajikistan. And yes, have a good day ahead. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Bye bye.